Добрий день, вітаю.
Hello everybody, welcome again to the Media Center Ukraine. We will today talk about the topic that is troublesome for the entire country. It's the stability of our internet during the blackouts, with cyber attacks, with the threats that our infrastructure sustains, how the state works with this, how the business is meeting the challenges. Our expert today is Oleksandr Fediienko, the former head of the Internet Association in Ukraine, and he's also head of the Subcommittee on Cybersecurity in the Parliamentary Committee on Security and Defense. Let's talk about what is the situation now, the general situation. We are talking quite a lot about infrastructure objects connected to the energy sector, but we do not mention very often our mobile telephony, our stationary communications and internet. Very good questions. I'll start with defining the terms. In our country and in the world, we have fixed internet providers, those who provide you with a cable going to your flat, and mobile operators who provide you with an access to mobile networks. When you're going somewhere, moving somewhere, a telephone or gadget. About the state of things, just my subjective opinion based on my experience and on the experience that, I rather often go to the combat zone and talk to mobile operators. Ukraine is a unique country in the world which sustained military aggression and kinetic attacks, and our mobile operators are still working, and we are the only country in the world which has such a quantity number of providers that they can provide during any challenges people's access to the information. Was it the free market that played the role? Yes, free market. Competition, no monopolization, no regulation, and this is the unique experience which the Ministry of Communication, Finance and the Tax Administration are trying to demolish at the moment. I think that we will have an opportunity to talk about this separately. The less operators of communications we have, the bigger is the probability that our people will lose their access to information. Any legal changes, any regulation will regulate this issue. The operators will not get new accumulators, they will not get new batteries or new people, additional people. However, the state has adopted a law which obliges mobile operators to sustain 10 hours without energy providers, and all the mobile operators said that this is hard to achieve because this is very costly. Practically, this is impossible. More than that, I read recently that one CEO of a huge mobile operator said that it's impossible to sustain operation for 10 hours without energy. Well, what is blackout? Blackout is when you have energy for 2 hours, then 10 hours you don't have it, then again 2 and 10, but not a single operator in the world will be able to provide the accumulator charge which will help to go through these periods. So if the Ministry of Finance will continue to demolish this system, which is maybe tax administration and finance ministry do not like the fact that a huge player is losing on this, but the consumer is in clover with this, because, for instance, all our customers who've been abroad have definitely felt the difference between Ukrainian quality of internet and foreign qualities of internet. Well, maybe they will sustain for the first 10 hours, but again, this is going to be voice communication, not the internet. And I think that in Kyiv, which is capital of Ukraine, the capital of Ukraine, the experience says that within 30 to 50 minutes of blackout, 2 mobile operators go away and 1 remains available for mobile phone calls. When my colleagues, MPs, were surviving due to the fact that there are some small operators who were providing access to the internet 24/7. Okay, but proceeding from your words, we have the threat of an excessive regulation in this sphere, and this threatens the services. This is not only the comfort of our citizens, this is the work of our business, this is all because they have to have the access to information. What is the way out that you see in order to improve and strengthen this sphere? How can we strengthen the stability and sustainability of mobile operators? Once and again, I say, if you want to kill any business, provide the state regulation there, and this business will die out. On the contrary, business is a self-sufficient structure which will constantly compete for the client, and the state does not need to be there, and there has to be no regulation there. The steps that are being made now on the part of those state bodies will lead to the decrease in the number of fixed internet providers, to the deterioration of quality, and also to the rise in the prices. And we will have to pay 50 to 70 euro per month for all those services. That's like you pay in the European Union. Well, maybe those who try to push this philosophy in our country have some vision. They think that this will raise the revenue, the tax revenue, but no, this won't happen. I asked the tax administration, what are you getting now and what will you get after this? They cannot quote any figures. And of course this will deteriorate the situation for the business, but mostly this will be worse for the citizens of Ukraine. The business will buy this service somewhere. However, for the citizens, and especially for frontline cities and cities next to the front line, the huge business will not go there. I have been to those areas last week. I don't know how local mobile operators or fixed operators work. I don't know how they survive there. If we are going to kill this segment now, this will affect in a very bad way the access of the customers. During martial law, I would forbid the state to interfere with any regulation into the business, because business is a self-regulatory entity. If they want to do this, they will buy generators, they will buy accumulators, because they compete for the customers. I was in Lozova recently, and there are a mobile operator there, but they do not have the internet. I met the military administration there, and they said, please come to our rescue because we need the internet. So I spoke to responsible bodies, and of course they have to provide feedback to the population. If they do not provide feedback, we have to introduce fines at the level of European Union, so that they feel that they are responsible, those providers, or let the customers to choose other providers. I remember our first media tours, that media tour center organized on the territory of Kyiv region. When we came to Bucha or Irpin, there was no connection, telephone connection or internet connection there. This was one of the things that mobile operators tried to eliminate, because this was, of course, important for our military, for calming down our population, to overcome challenges in the frontline areas. Is there any coordination concerning the telephony and mobile internet and fixed internet, any communication and coordination between the government and the parliamentary bodies and non-governmental organizations? The war goes on, the threats are there. Is there a plan to coordinate private and state efforts in these circumstances? Regrettably, I must say that coordination and communication has gone on the decline. Yes, we have a coordination center attached to the Center of State Communications. They sort of coordinate all the operators in case, for the cases when some territory is liberated. However, the element of lobbyism is now on the forefront on the part of different public organizations. Some of them lobby the huge business, some of them small and medium-sized business. This is normal, I think, but part of the MPs are using this. They raise the slogan of this or that business, and they are mostly inclined to support huge business in this. But if we side with a big business, they have to be irreproachable where the paying of taxes is concerned, and they have to be responsible for providing their services for 24/7. If they fail, they should be fined, because the internet is not just entertainment now. This is information. First of all, the Telegram channels are working with the help of the internet, so people can get information through their messengers, some validated data as well. So there is some coordination, but I think that the parliament should think, first of all, about the population, because, by the way, an MP is a representative of the people, not of the business. And MPs should understand that our population has to have a reliable connection. Of course, the state service for the protection of communication is doing quite a lot for this, but I would like again to emphasize that Ukraine is a unique country, because the number of providers and operators that we have, even next to the front line, is enough to provide our population with services if it is not eliminated on the 1st of October. Because on the 1st of October, the tax administration will make people to go to other formula of being taxed. However, I again say that during martial law, you should not touch business and interfere with the business. And then, if this happens, the business people will either leave the country or will switch to some other sphere. But neither the Minister of Finance nor Tax Administration are going to win as a result of this situation. Well, thank you for the fact that MPs are concerned about the interests of our economy, because it is always heartening to hear that not only you care about regulation, but also about survival. I also would like to ask you about cybersecurity, as you had the subcommittee on cybersecurity, and we recently saw massive attacks on critical infrastructure, and those attacks hit our banks and mobile operators. We do not have much information about this. We understand that the situation is being stabilized by specific businesses, but what is the general dynamics? What is being done so that we are safe or protected from such attacks? And who should be first responsible, the state or business? Let's talk about the objects of critical infrastructure and critically important objects. We don't have a single mobile communication operator who are objects of critical infrastructure, but they are enterprises of critical importance. The experience of cyber attacks that we saw recently has again shown that the way the Ministry of Finance and Tax Administration is wrong, that they chose the mobile operator who was hit by a cyber attack was not working for almost 3 weeks. So if this happens in relation to other operators, we will all lose our access to information. And I again and again say that the state should not so much interfere with the business. We should clarify who actually ordered this to be done. We're being attacked 24/7. The entire information and cyberspace of Ukraine is under constant attacks. The State Service for Data Protection and Information Protection takes care of the state bodies, and for quite some time we did not hear about any considerable results of enemy attacks, which was the fact 2 or 3 years ago. So it is normal to regulate the state bodies and state information systems. As far as the private sector is concerned, there's a rule of risk-oriented management. Look, if, for instance, the bank is hacked or the mobile operator hacks, they lose money and they lose customers. For instance, the outflow of customers from the mobile operator who was recently hacked was immense, and maybe they are trying to regulate this sphere because of this fact. I wouldn't go to speculate in this area, but this is a lesson to those who think that the issues of cybersecurity are redundant now. My colleagues, MPs, have told me recently when I registered the bill on cybersecurity, they said, Why should we need it? We have lived for 30 years without cybersecurity. We will live further. But I said no. We won't be able to live because Ukraine is, by the way, the country which provided digital skills to the population, so we have to protect them. And if we don't do this, then our citizens will be under attack of phishing and such other things. So we have to teach them how to use those skills. By the way, we have sustained until now because of this. They attacked, for instance, the enemy attacked private bank, but the banking system worked, phone system worked, and my European colleagues told me, look, we will change our rules proceeding from your experience. However, within the country they decided to make regulations stricter. The experience of this war has showed us that there is no enterprise or bank that ignores the issues of cyber resilience. The challenges that arose after the cyber attacks are stimulating the managers of commercial enterprises, of banks, to introduce security and safety rules. As far as state enterprises and state bodies are concerned, this is the responsibility of the state, and we have adopted a number of rather good changes for which we are being criticized, but we're being criticized by people who do not work in the public or state sector. The state information services and systems and registers and resources are well protected now, sufficiently well protected now, and they are being protected 24/7 because they are being attacked 24/7. However, there are, of course, questions to some private structures that store personal data, like medical institutions, postal services, and other private structures. They have immense databases. They are not obliged to introduce securities and safety rules, and if their databases are compromised, this will pose a threat to many people in this society. I think it is critically important from the point of view that we have, for instance, Reserve Plus, the digital database that concerns the security of our military, and of course this is a potential threat to people who have weapons and who are under the threat of information attacks. Will you care to comment on this? Because there's data circulating all the time that there's a leak from GIA, a leak from other system database. What would you say? Let's again say that DIA, Reserve Plus, Armia Plus are just covers that collect information from the state registers. Let's say anyone who looks at us now and will smash the computer or television screen, the studio will not vanish. As soon as those front covers appeared, haters appeared, and they remind me of those who hate and who oppose 5G, because they say that all the information will be stolen from there and everything will be very bad. As of today, there is no confirmed, validated information about the hacking of not the DIA application, but DIA system. I talked to many haters, asking them to provide me with the information, but they were not able to do this. There was some compromising, but this was a multi-layered information. They were, for instance, they hacked a telephone, broke into someone's telephone due to phishing, then they stole private 24, then bank ID, then they could validate DIA or something else. So here's the consequences and effects for you. But everybody forgets about this and they only talk about the final result. Reserve plus DIA are working with state registers now, and it is very important for me that they have not the front was broken, but it is important that Oberich, for instance, a dated Oberich register is protected. As of today, there's no confirmed information. I would not say that it's either compromised or not compromised, but cyber war and cyber aggression is something like when the enemy is within, but it may hide for for a long time. For instance, the enemy was within the mobile operator for half a year before they broke the system. And then they left banging the door. So I like using those systems. I do understand the risk. However, if there's a leak in DIA, it is impossible to use this information to do some action, like, for instance, take a loan or something like this. For half a year or even more, for a year and a half, we didn't have any case of practical use of those compromises. Well, you asked about DIA, about Reserve, about Armia Plus, which will soon appear, and this is one of my bills that is being registered today. For instance, the rules of composing the military register. This will be a very vulnerable and delicate, a very highly contagious reserve, delicate reserve resource. I see that some information could leak to Telegram channels from the register of some of the shippers. This means that they broke into this database. I also see that something came from the banking system of one of the banks, and then the influencer gets all this, combines all this, and says to the society, look how they broke into the system. This was done by the Russians, and maybe this is done by the Russians because they want to undermine the trust of the people to the digital services that the state introduces. I want to emphasize once again that the state has to take care of this security. And to close our conversation, because we were talking quite a lot about our citizens, everyone is trying to prepare for the winter, and the enemy is going to hit our energy sector again. What would your advice be to our people, how they can get prepared for the winter, how they can secure the internet for them? I'll start from an example. Recently I was at frontline territories. We were going past a broken bridge, and there was a girl, something like 13 years. She was there on a chair and she was doing something. I thought she was selling something, but she said that it was the spot, the only spot in the city where the internet is working, and I am in distance learning. Of course, I have the questions to her parents who allowed her to go where the fighting goes, but still this girl learns. Well, I have 4 SIM cards of 4 mobile operators because the function of switching the number does not work, so you have to have physically 4 cards, which I, for instance, check from time to time. If we're talking about a private operator, private dwelling, you will have to join the operator who will guarantee that they will function even during 210, 2 hours of energy, 10 hours without energy, and you have to have a fixed operator providing internet for your home, who guarantees the service on the internet, and the accumulators and the router. So you have to have several power banks to charge your mobile phones. When you don't have those power banks, it's hard to work. And then whatever you think is feasible to do and to keep up your resilience. Of course, it is better for people who live in the private sector, because your flat won't have space enough for many generators, and by the way, you have to care about the safety of your generators, because people are buying something very odd, some real junk, and we hear from time to time about fires and explosions. Thank you very much. We had Oleksandr Fediienko, who is an MP, who is member of the Committee on Security and Defense of Ukraine, and he heads the Subcommittee on Cybersecurity. And we were talking about what's going to happen to the internet and mobile communication in winter. We also talked about the state policy, how to better prepare for winter, and about the importance of open markets.